Yoga is identified. And then chapter 6, Dhyan Yoga, process of meditation. So it's something like a yoga ladder in the first 6 chapters. And then at the end of the chapter, 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that of all the systems of yoga that I've outlined, there's one principle that's the most important principle, and that most important principle is bhakti. And he then identifies what bhakti is. Very simple terms. What the mind does and what the body does. And what the mind should be fixed upon the Supreme, and what the body does is work or activity dedicated to the Supreme. And then the middle 6 chapters, look at this, we've just done 1/3 of Bhagavad Gita. The middle 6 chapters, Krishna gives a how-to explanation. I'm going to explain to you, this is the first verse of chapter 7, I'm going to explain to you how to practice and perform bhakti yoga. And in that chapter 7, there's a second set of Sankhya Yoga. In that second set of Sankhya Yoga, it's just elaborating what's in chapter 2, found in chapter 7. And chapter 13 is going to give, further. But chapter 7, Krishna identifies 8 separated material energies. You know those 8 ones. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Bhumi, rapo, alo, vayu, kam. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. And the subtle, mind, intelligence, and false ego, altogether this makes my 8 bina prakriti. And then aside from the bina prakriti, there's the living entity. So it's matter and spirit, divisions of matter, categories of spirit. Again, practice bhakti yoga is don't identify with the matter part, identify with the spirit part, and engage in loving service unto the Supreme. So middle 6 chapters are expanding in different ways on the bhakti process. And then comes the final 6 chapters, which starts with chapter 13. And guess what? It's a very elaborate description of Sankhya Yoga. So there's introduction, kind of intermediate, and now here's an advanced description of Sankhya. The Sanskrit is Prakriti Purusha Viveka Yoga. As you know, each of the chapters of Bhagavad Gita has a something yoga. As I've Karma Yoga, Gyan Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. So this one is Prakriti Purusha Viveka Yoga. Viveka, distinctions between Prakriti and Purusha, matter and spirit. Matter and spirit, distinctions. So this is chapter 13. So it's a more advanced differentiation of Sankhya, but it's a Sankhya section. And Sankhya it's important to know who we are if we're going to engage in activities that are consistent with who we really are, as opposed to activities that aren't consistent with who we are, or illusory activities, which people are very busy in this world engaged in. Illusory activity, building a sandcastle up on the beach, and the tide comes in and knocks over the sandcastle. The tide goes out and they build another sandcastle. So that which is not temporary is the living entity, but all that is temporary is Prakriti. So section 1, there are several sections in chapter 13. We're just going to deal with 2 sections, the first 2. The first section is the series of questions. And in the very beginning of chapter 13, Arjuna asks 6 questions. And basically, it's matter and spirit, matter and spirit, matter and spirit. Purusha and Prakriti, or Prakriti and Purusha, matter and spirit. The field of activities, Kshetra and Kshetragya, matter and spirit. And knowledge and the object of knowledge, matter and spirit. Those are the 6 questions. And the next set comes directing, Krishna is going to respond to the knowledge and the object of knowledge. So Prabhupada is introducing this section by asking the question, what is perfect knowledge? That's a nice question. What is perfect knowledge? There's knowledge, and then what's perfect knowledge? Perfect knowledge is knowledge that comes from a perfect source. We'll say it the opposite. Imperfect knowledge is knowledge that comes from an imperfect source. Imperfect knowledge is knowledge that comes from an imperfect source. Perfect knowledge is that which comes, and the perfect source, the Absolute, the Supreme Person. So, a very simple way, in the purport for this section, Prabhupada describes perfect knowledge is knowing the difference between a painter, painting, and the easel. So there's a nice artist. He has a nice technique, a long brush, and the easel is some distance away. And he's making colors on the easel. So that's the easel, that's clear. There's the painter, that's clear. And then there's the painting, and that's what's on the easel. So similarly, that's how the material world is functioning. There's the painter, that's the supreme. There's the painting, that's the creation. There's the creator and the creation. And then there's the instrument. In this case, the painter is holding the paintbrush. So there may be instruments for Krishna doing what Krishna wants to do, or living entities thinking that they're the doer, and they engage their hands and their legs or the instruments of action in activity. But there's spirit behind matter. That's the point. And here's a little summary. Every living entity's kshetra, or field of activity, is arranged by his karma through the agency of Maya. Krishna, therefore, is not partial because, as the Supersoul, knower of all kshetras, he simply sanctions the awarding of each living entity's field of activities. So some by karma and by icha, by desire, they desire this, and their karma has entitled them to this, so they get this. And someone gets that, and someone gets the other, and there's all varieties because of varieties of karma and varieties of desire, kama. So we have all this variety thing going on that's within the painting or within the creation. But it's the diversity has to do with the living entity. So now, that's just a little summary. And here comes verses 8 through 12. This is section number 2, where in addition to knowledge and the object of knowledge, Krishna is going to describe the field of activity and the knower of the field of activity. So here's the process of knowledge. According to the list that's in Bhagavad Gita, it's a list of 20 items. And we're going to quickly go through the 20 items because it's a long list. The list starts with amanitvam. The starting list, this is a quality or an item of knowledge as part of the process of knowledge. Humility or not expecting respect from others. Number 2 in the list, adambitvam. or pridelessness. Dam bum means pride. Dam bum, it means pride. And dam bitvam, the quality of pridelessness, where dharma and virtue are carried out not for the purpose of gaining something or recognition by others or being known in the world as a religious person, just because it's to be done, like duty, because it's to be done. It's the way of life of a civilized human being. Adam bitvam, pridelessness. So those are two. Nonviolence, tolerance, simplicity. Here's another, you notice it's color-coded. Acharya upasanam. This is number 6 in this list. Approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Cleanliness, steadfastness, self-control. No taste for objects which are obstacles. Being without false ego. That's a nice one. Contemplate repeatedly the faults of birth, death, disease, and old age. Asakti, without attachment for family. And the list goes on. There's 20 in the list. So rather than go through each of the 20. Notice in yellow letters, Mai Chananya Yogena Bhaktir Avyabhicharini. We're going to visit this again. This is steady bhakti through the 9 processes of bhakti. Ananya Bhakti, Mai Cha, Ananya Yogena Bhaktir Avyabhicharini. Nice Sanskrit phrase. So on the right side, on the left side, that's like a stairway. And at the very bottom step is humility, and then pridelessness, and then so forth and so on, up to the stage of achieving the Supreme. So this is the process of knowledge, and the goal of knowledge is what? To know the Supreme. Vedayishta Sayarvair Aham Eva Vedyo. Many of you know the verse. The purpose of the Vedas is to know the Supreme. Cha. Krishna is speaking, so he's first person singular. Aham Eva Vedyo. And of these qualities or processes of knowledge, there are 3 that are identified in the commentary or purports of our predecessor acharyas. And one of them is most important. I liken it to, just like on the ceiling here, there's a chandelier. Of course, the image on the screen is a chandelier. But the chandelier is, expensive chandeliers, it's crystal, and crystal has the capacity to diffuse light, soft, diffused light. These are with some coverings, so it does essentially the same thing. It's light source, but it's a gentle light source. And supposing that chandelier wasn't hanging from the ceiling, supposing the chandelier was just lying on the floor somewhere, pretty useless. It's useful if it's hanging from the ceiling. So the thing that the whole process of yoga is hanging from, it's suspended from, this is this Maishananya Yogena. It's unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme. So the other 19 items of knowledge are pursuant to and beneficial to and of value if they're connected to this one. And vice versa, without the one, it's meaningless. It's something, but it's not, doesn't have any real meaning. If one does not approach or is not able to approach transcendental service to the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. That's a little strong, but it's true. Or here's another way of saying the same thing. put God in the center, and everything will come together. Without God in the center, is everything going to come together? There may be little pieces here, little pieces there, something, something, something. And it's chaos. It's not orderly. It's not meaningful. So this phrase of the 20 items of knowledge, it's like the vertical line on which the chandelier is suspended. On all the other 19 parts of the process of knowledge are also suspended. Here's from the commentary. One should have bhakti, unmixed. That's this avyabhichari, unmixed. Unmixed with karma, gyan, tapa, yoga, unto me, Shamasundara. The word cha, here, my cha, ananya yogena bhaktir avyabhicharini, indicates that bhakti may also be performed with a slight mixture of gyan and other elements. But then it's not pure, it's mixed. Mixed gyan mishra bhakti. The first unmixed type will be executed by the devotees. The second will be executed by the gyanis. We'll say it backwards. Supposing somebody is a gyan yogi, because it's like chapter 5 from Bhagavad Gita, knowledge of the Absolute. Supposing somebody has knowledge of the Absolute, and they're engaged to some degree in bhakti, but they're not unmixed bhakta yet. So that person, that jnani, is going to have an interest, likely going to have an interest, not only upon the Supreme Person, but upon Brahman. Brahman meaning the impersonal feature of the Absolute. Commonly, jnanis, by study of the Upanishads and other procedures, other mantra chanting, etc., have a strong interest in Brahman, not a strong interest in the Supreme Person. But it's a detail, but it's important detail, that gyan effort that they make must be mixed with bhakti, or it's not going to bear fruit. Mixed with some bhakti, then it'll bear some fruit, at least the possibility of understanding Brahman. But without a mixture to some degree of bhakti, that's not going to be complete. This term avyabhichari or avyabhicharini means it's meant to be done daily. Probably there are many in this room that do some type of yoga or mantra meditation or something, or combination. And most of us that do this, it's something that we do every day. It's an essential teaching of Patanjali Yoga. Nairantarya, something that you do every day. Every day. A little bit, something. And then the next day is a little something, the next day a little something. And it develops some strength from doing every day. So avyabhicharini is bhakti that should be done every day. And one commentator named Madhusudana Saraswati has said it refers to bhakti can't be stopped. So avyabhichari bhakti, mai chananya yogena bhaktir avyabhicharini, there isn't a material cause and there isn't a material interruption once it begun. Like, perpetual motion machine, kind of. Once it starts, it doesn't stop. There's no such thing in the material world, because friction, something in motion is going to stop because of counteracting forces. But something that's spiritual, nothing can stop it. Nothing material can stop it. So that's what's recommended in this chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the process of knowledge. Now there's another important several important phrases. Another was mentioned, color-coded, is Acharya Upasana. Now, Upasana literally means worship. As many of you know, there's three main divisions of the Vedas: Jnana-kanda, Karma-kanda, Jnana-kanda, and Upasana-kanda. Divisions of karma, divisions of knowledge, Jnana-kanda, divisions of worship. And of all the systems of worship, most important is the upasana of the acharya, or the acceptance of a spiritual master. And why? Because it's through the medium of the spiritual master that the message of unfiltered message of transcendence is broadcast, or as the painting is showing, from the illumined heart of the spiritual master, sound vibration enters into the heart of the disciple. It's the transmission of transcendental sound. It has an effect. Sound is very powerful. The long explanation of how it's true. Sound is very powerful. Material sound is powerful. Material sound is powerful. And spiritual sound is most powerful. So by hearing spiritual sound from the spiritual master, then spiritual life becomes awakened. And the awakened state of knowledge becomes established within the heart. It's in the intellect, pointing to my head, but the intellect also has some cognizant or awareness of knowledge. But most important, fundamentally important, is the heart, the seat of consciousness, where the soul is. And transcendental knowledge, heard from the spiritual master, acts upon the original consciousness of the soul. And one who has received, one who is able to receive, has this quality of amanitvam. So we're going back again to that list of 20. The first in the list of 20 is humility. Here's a very nice teaching, Rupa Goswami. Many of you are acquainted with who is Rupa Goswami. In his Sri Padyavali, he has this very nice description of what humility is. O Lord, no one is more merciful than you, and no one is more pathetic than I. I am very lowly and fallen. O Lord Yadunath, please reflect on my case and do whatever is appropriate. Hint. Illumine my heart with your mercy. You're the more merciful than anyone, everyone, and I'm most pathetic. Shower some of your mercy. Do whatever you feel is appropriate. Humility means, so we're going through these 4 out of the 20. We've just quickly touched on 2, and now this is number 3, humility. Means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others, which leads us into number 4, adambitvam, pridelessness. Because one who gets honored by others may become proud, or generally will become proud. There's books on the topic. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, thinking less of yourself, think of yourself less. So Krishna, put Krishna at the center. Or another, this is one I like very much, and it's a good one to remember. This is Mother Teresa. She has a nice way of saying, if you're humble, nothing will touch you, neither praise nor disgrace, because you know what you are. It's a good one to remember. Sometimes, as a sannyasi, I travel a lot. And when I travel, I meet people. And many cases I'm meeting people that don't know me so well, but I'm supposed to represent something to people that don't know me so well, and like a place you can present, you can reveal your heart and share the difficulty that you're struggling with. And many people struggle with they're not getting sufficient recognition, or someone is saying something harsh to them, or treating them in a bad way, or something. However, to say what Mother Teresa says to such a person that's feeling the pain of hurt, it doesn't help them, because they think, oh, you're condemning me. You're another one. But it's true. When you on the positive side, so one of the necessities is to awaken self-knowledge. Because when self-knowledge is awakened, neither praise nor blame, no honor, or like second chapter Bhagavad Gita. Many of you know Matra Sparshas Konteya Sitoshna Sukha Dukkada Agama Payo Nityas Tang Satiksha Swabharata. Krishna says same thing to Arjuna that Mother Teresa is saying to all of us. When one is situated in knowledge of the self, then you become not attached to, no longer attached to the temporary. And the temporary is the place of duality. Sometimes, this is Michigan. Sometimes it's nice summer. Wait a while. I'm looking at these homes with all these long driveways. What happens when the winter comes? They got to shovel all that driveway, or have somebody come in and plow it or something, etc. So it's winter and summer season. There's honor, there's dishonor, there's pleasure and there's pain. There's light and there's dark, there's day and there's night, there's this and there's wet and there's dry, there's duality in this world. Now, how to be indifferent to duality? Because it's a world in which we live. The answer is be situated with knowing who you are. If you're Sat, you're not Asat. It's quite simple. But if you don't know that you're Sat, you identify with Asat. Now it's warm, and then it's cold. Now I'm honored, now I'm dishonored. Now I'm praised, now I'm disgraced. And happiness and distress are determined by the configuration of material energy. That's not what real happiness, and it's not what real distress is either. So now we're moving to the number 4, amanitvam adamvidvam, pridelessness. According to a dictionary definition, pride is the nemesis of humility. Here's a nice Oxford Dictionary definition of nemesis: the inescapable agent of someone's downfall. Nemesis of humility. You'll lose humility if there's pride. And if you have pride, not only you lose humility, you lose everything. Everything good becomes corrupted by pride. I'll say it again. Everything good becomes corrupted by pride. So many of you are grahastas and you have children, or who knows, grandchildren, whatever, and you like your children to be happy and be good. But if they get too much pride, then or associate with those that have too much pride, then they may become prideful. Or they become crestfallen because they're being put down too much by the person who's proud. It destroys everything good. Pride destroys everything good. Pride, in the spiritual conception, it's just the extension of false ego. False ego is the conception of I am the body, like back to chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita. But we're not the body. But how many people have heard that we're not the body and still buy into the idea that we're the body? How deep is that realization that we're not the body? And to the degree that it's not deep and profound, then the companion of I is mine. And what falls in the category of mine is what's produced from the body. Like my work and the fruits of my work. And there's the attachment to the fruits of my work because it's mine. And the fruits of my work means my money and my home and my car and my bank balance and my taxes and my children and my family and, all kinds of mine that flow from the I conception. They go well together, I and mine, or amanatvam, adambitvam. And pride is the downfall. And someone that's proud, they may be suffering and holding on to a twig, and someone is extending a helping hand and they can't let go of their pride. We've all experienced this. I mean, it's a cartoon, but we've experienced extending a helping hand to someone who's proud and they can't let go of that bag of pride. It's hard. It's a fundamental spiritual teaching. Here's another way of saying the same thing, and we're almost done. This is Bhakti Siddhanta, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, pictured on the right. And he's very renounced, Naishtika Brahmachari. Give up pride, the weeds, plural, that choke the creeper of devotion. Bhakti is destroyed by pride. Bhakti cannot grow in the heart of one who is proud. It has such a tendency. Rather, there is an alternative. Constant, this is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and we're almost done. Constant and unalloyed devotion to me, this Mayi Chanyanya Yogena, is the sole quality specifically for the devotee of the 20 most important. All other qualities come to a devotee who exclusively endeavors for constant, unalloyed devotion. It's like the chandeliers held up by this one piece that holds it from the ceiling. Bhakti, similarly, is dependent upon this one thing, constant and unalloyed devotion to me. Later in chapter 13, here's another verse where Krishna says to Arjuna, O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. So consciousness is within, and it spreads through the body because of the presence of the soul within. And Bhakti, it does the same thing with the Supreme Soul. Those who see with the eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage of material nature, attain to the supreme goal. So that's circling back to the topic, that beginning topic. What's the goal of knowledge? To know Krishna. Knowing the distinction between matter and spirit, the body and the covering of the soul, the body, and the process of liberation. We're meant to be engaged in service to the Supreme. And here's the final slide, and then we're done. This is not from Bhagavad Gita, it's Hitopadesh, a nice book that a companion teaches the same thing. 4 beneficial combinations. Charity, accompanied with sweet words. knowledge without pride, that's when we touched upon, valor with forbearance, and wealth with charitable disposition. 4 beneficial qualities that a civilized and an ideal human being will have. So one of them we touched on from this chapter 13, that's knowledge without pride. But these others are also wonderful characteristics of a civilized human being. And if you probably noticed, there are lots of living beings around that are not trained in Vedic culture, and therefore their capacity for civilization isn't the same as one who's trained in Vedic culture. And so the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, through the message of Bhagavad Gita and carefully studying its contents and internalizing its message, is meant to bring civilization, re-spiritualization of the entire human civilization for the welfare of all. It's the very same idea as the verse that we discussed in the Farmington Hills Temple this morning, the Bhagavatam verse from Dhruva Maharaj and what he was able to accomplish because he had these characteristics. And because he had these characteristics, he was loved. And people trusted him and they followed him. And there was peace and prosperity. And there's not too much peace and not too much prosperity. I mean, material prosperity that comes and it goes quickly. But lasting, the kind of prosperity that was known during the time of Maharaj Yudhisthira, etc., 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 that kind of prosperity, spiritual well-being, is followed by material well-being, like an object that casts a shadow the shadow follows behind the object. So the idea here is, from knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and the whole process of bhakti found in Bhagavad Gita is meant to elevate the consciousness of people in general so that the real purpose of human life is achieved and well-being becomes the norm instead of the exception. So that's it. Thank you all for inviting me to come, and thank you all for coming. You start a little later than most groups, though, I'll tell you. For some reason, I don't know why. You like it. So please share with me any thoughts or comments that you'd like to make. We have a little portable microphone.
Thank you, Maharaj. You said that where mind is and where body is, that bhakti.
Last verse of chapter 6, Bhagavad Gita. Bhakti has 2 things. That's what I said, yes.
So, most of the time when we engage in devotional service, we are in connection with Krishna, reading Bhagavatam or chanting or serving Lord. Our mind wanders, so that this some break happens. So again, there's not complete bhakti, right?
So your question is, I didn't hear the punchline of the question, but you're asking how to curb the mind when it starts to wander.
Yeah, the 2 things are not in the line
They're not lined up.
Yeah.
So how to line it up?
Right.
That's what you want to know.
Right.
The method, there's different methods, like chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. Dhyan, yoga. It explains many items of beneficial activities that help keep the mind fixed. However, Arjuna says, for me, this process of dhyan is not possible. You have something else I can do? And so bhakti. So now here comes your question. I'm doing bhakti, but my mind is still wandering. Two things. The first foremost thing is sound vibration. Of the sound vibrations, the scripture and the holy name. The scripture has descriptions of Krishna's teachings, Krishna's form, Krishna's activities. And one who becomes accomplished or practiced, at least, in hearing, I know it worked for me. Just, yesterday evening, there was some discussion on many topics in relation to Krishna's achieving shelter in Vrindavan. And there was a question raised by somebody in our audience here about a pastime from Canto 10, Chapter 13, where for 1 year, so I'm just giving an example, a practical example. So I was mulling over this question because I didn't have a clear answer. And finally came the clear answer, but it was absorbing myself in the question when for 1 year, Krishna was manifesting himself as calves and cowherd boys. The cowherd boys didn't feel separation from Krishna for that 1 year because they were covered by Yogamaya. And it was as if time hadn't passed at all. And at the end of 1 year, the bell rang and there was no time had passed by the influence of Yogamaya. So the question was, what about Krishna? He's attached to the cowherd boys. Did he feel, was he covered by Yogamaya? What protected Krishna? And it was a nice question. And I didn't have the answer. So I was pondering it. And I asked a number of people and I read. So I was immersed in thought about Krishna, just from that activity of hearing and chanting and discussing. I was busy during the day, like everyone's busy during the day doing what their work is. I was doing my work, but I was also in the back of my mind meditating. So there's a very nice answer. I'll give you the answer, but I'm illustrating the point by the process of hearing and immersion in the process of hearing. Whatever one's age is, whatever one's education capacity is, whoever somebody is, the process of hearing can help you become immersed in keeping the mind fixed. If you've heard, and it's not an information propensity, but wanting to understand more deeply about Krishna. So that's the second answer. When let's say motherhood. A mother is attached to their child. The child is attached to the mother. The mother doesn't have to go to school to learn attachment to their child. Wherever they are, they're attached to their child. It's just nature's way of having the child taken care of by the mother that looks after the child because of the attachment to the child. And then, because there's all 24/7, regardless of what's going on. And there's a little sound over there. They hear the crying of their child at night. They wake up. They go and take care of their child because of the affection for the child. But that's an answer to your question. The unsteadiness of the mind in bhakti has everything to do with the purpose behind bhakti. Just today, one of the things that I was doing just today was preparing for a seminar. From here, I'm in the Detroit area, I'm going to Alachua. And there's a plan to have a seminar with another Prabhupada disciple, Tamahar Prabhu, and the topic is going to be Bhakti Sandarbha. So I spent some time today, and here's the key. Bhakti has the power to bestow prema on the living entity. But the living entity won't get prema even with volumes and volumes and volumes of service without a purpose, proper purpose behind it. The proper purpose behind it is what? It's not just the service. For whom is the service being done? So some attachment to Krishna. Supposing I don't have attachment to Krishna, then I'm going to do service, but my mind is going to wander. Supposing I have attachment to Krishna, I'm going to do the service mindfully of who it's for. So it's the process of hearing and chanting, starting with chanting japa. We all have that opportunity. And the mind can wander when chanting japa. Generally it does. So how to bring the mind to its fixed upon, so being present with the person, a relationship with Krishna through the medium of chanting of his holy name. So, in a purposeful way. And so there are two answers. Medium is sound, and then the purpose behind the sound. And if we become attached to the purpose behind sound, which is the person, then the mind doesn't wander. Even when you're not doing something, the practical service, your mind is on the object.
Thank you, Maharaj. I was looking for this for a long time. Here now. So keep the person Krishna as my goal, love him, and I'm doing for Krishna. So that will help me.
Next week, Saturday, tomorrow is Saturday. Next week after tomorrow, there's going to be a seminar on this topic. Live broadcast and recorded, and so, and then it's sound. But it's not. It's Jiva Goswami explaining bhakti in Bhakti Sandarbha. So just transmitting his sound vibration. It's nice. The process is nice. And it works. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have a question regarding the word pride you're mentioning. So, why we should not have pride about something? For example,
Why he doesn't?
yeah, why we should not have pride about something? For example, if somebody does 16 rounds of chanting, why we should not be proud of that? So, this is just an example. So,
Okay.
I would like to know why it is not important.
You want to know why
Pride is not important.
is it so important?
Yeah.
Because it blocks bhakti. What's bhakti? It's back to his question. It's an activity, but it's also where the mind is going to the object that the activity is meant to please. But if I'm proud, neither will I do the activity, nor will I be thinking of the happiness of the other party. I'm thinking about me. I, me, and mine. False ego. So bhakti is blocked by pride. I can be very active doing XYZ things. That if I'm gifted at something, supposing like this young girl was singing, and she was singing very nicely. So we say, oh, you sang so nicely. Yes, yes, yes. So the singing might go on, but the bhakti doesn't go on because it's all about, it gets localized on selfishness. And it's fine being a gifted singer or a gifted whatever. Gift that Krishna bestow all gifts upon you and others. I just received a letter from someone that for the past 3 years they've been chanting 64 rounds every day. I don't chant 64 rounds every day. And I wasn't like envious of them, just think, wow, how'd that happen? And my advice to them was don't be proud. Make the heart pure. Don't be proud. So your question is, why is it important? It's important because in its absence, bhakti can flow. In its presence, bhakti is blocked. Blocked.
So,
Okay?
so if that is the case, then what is the measure?
What's the remedy?
What is the measure for bhakti? Like whatever the spirituality we should be in, like
What's the purpose of pride? There isn't.
no, the measure. Like how do you
What's the
measure?
danger?
How do you measure? The measure. Like the measurement.
Say without the microphone. The sound system is. How do you measure it? Oh, okay. That's a nice question. Well, exact measurement, it's not yardsticks and that kind of measurement, but the presence of pride is where the center is missing. And the center that is there instead is I'm at the center, and then that which is in relation to I'm at the center is at the center. So I and mine is at the center, and that's a measure. So the converse is the measure of pridelessness is Krishna's at the center. Chapter 6, verse number 2, Bhagavad Gita. Same. The process of yoga, chapter 6 is Dhyan Yoga. So by the process of, to practice Dhyan Yoga, bringing the mind to the Supreme is not going to happen where there's pride. So I have to be detached from. So a sign, that a measure, you're looking at a measurement. How do you measure pridelessness? Krishna's at the center and Krishna doesn't. Oh, how to measure bhakti? Well, that's the flip side. That Krishna's at the center. That's how you measure. Supposing, here's a nice little story. It's a true story. Prabhupada told the story of when he was living in Vrindavan, there was a very poor lady, a widow, and all she was able to do, because she was so poor, is she had a brass pot, and every day in her brass pot, she went to the river Jamuna and gathered some Jamuna water and delivered it to the Radharaman temple. And that was her seva. How significant is that? But it was with devotion that she did what she did. And the Jamuna water was used in bathing of the deity every day, and whatever else they did with the Jamuna water. And Prabhupada said, for sure and certain, she went back to Godhead because that was her life's dedication. So it's simple. So the measure of bhakti is whatever you do, yet, it's done with one purpose, for Krishna's satisfaction. And then minus my own satisfaction. She wasn't looking for honor or praise or money or reward or pat on the back or Krishna, Radharaman should be pleased. And very humble person, and when she left her body, everyone knew where she went. So that's a measure. Krishna's at the center. Yes, there was someone else with their hand up. Yes, this gentleman over here. Age before beauty, right?
Guruji, my question is related to this question only about the measure. Is there any time limit for devotion and bhakti?
Time limit?
Yeah.
No. What, 24/7.
Or is there minimum or maximum?
What's he saying?
Minimum time.
Oh,
Is there
minimum. It's a minimum. Yeah, the blink of an eye. But, just something. Whatever, a blink of an eye. But, 10 blinks of the eye. Something that you can do every day. That's your question. The ideal is that you do every day, and whatever that is that you do every day, you become naturally desirous to incrementally increase that something that you do every day. No, each of us have our duties and our responsibilities, and we can't so much do all day long, but incremental increase is ideal. So something every day, and over a period of time increase. There's no limit on the downside or the upside, but something every day, and then try to increase it. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dhanar Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you for enlightening us with Bhagavad Gita and wisdom. Maharaj, I have a question. True charity speaks through action, not through words. But here, charity accompanied with sweet words. I have not understood this first line, first point. If you can enlighten.
So the first line, you want to say expansion. Charity accompanied with sweet words. Well,
so my question is, true charity always speaks through action, not through words.
Well, it's both. There's a charitable disposition as well as the act of charity. I'm not sure what you're pondering. So you're not objecting to sweet words. You're parsing between charity and sweet words. But why would you want to differentiate between them or separate them? I'm not clear what your question is. Huh?
So, no, true charity is accompanied with sweet words. So, but usually charity is always hidden, right? It should not.
Well, you say always, but not always. So supposing it's Rath Yatra time, and somebody takes the responsibility for serving prasadam. Somebody takes the responsibility for cooking it, somebody to procure the ingredients. Someone's serving the prasadam. They're standing in the line. And they just dump it on the plate. But, the sweetness of the act can certainly accompany the act. No, the person that's receiving the prasadam may not be particularly a down-and-out hungry person. They can be a very accomplished, prestigious person, but they understand it's Jagannath Prasad. So they're the grateful recipient of Jagannath Prasad. And then the person who's receiving, person who's distributing, it's not like my gift to you, they're just distributing prasadam to everybody. But then some sweet words accompanying the act of distributing the prasadam. So I'm still not clear what your difficulty is. Why is there difficulty?
I'm trying to understand, Maharaj, that true charity is always not through actions, not with the words, right? So here.
Well, you keep repeating this,
Okay.
but I don't agree with you.
Okay.
Them.
Okay.
Charity is an action, and true charity is from the heart,
Okay.
not just an act.
Okay. Got it.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
If no one has question,
You know,
I'll
there is somebody else over here, this young lady.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, you were telling, you gave us the example of how some people come up to you explaining their problems and like troubles about
Yeah,
wanting
yeah.
recognition. So I was just wondering, you can't really like invalidate their feelings. So how do you respond to them regarding this?
Depends on the person and the relationship and, the issue and, their how wound up they are and it depends how you respond, how I respond. And one of the things I've learned over time is just that they've been heard. Then not necessarily that I'm supposed to provide a solution to the hurt or the pain. And if I can make a suggestion or two or do something or, something, depends upon the situation. But minimally, they've been heard. And, it's depending upon what the situation. Let me see if here's some research that may help you with this hurt. I'll give an example. I think it's okay. Not too long ago, I was at the Chicago Temple, and it was just like what's going on right now at the talk, and then the questions answers. Right after the class was over, and I'm putting my stuff away, one young lady came and started crying, saying, woe was me. And I don't understand, why it's happening this way. So I said, let me do this. So I sent her a document. She gave her contact. I never met her before. I had no idea what that issue was. She didn't go into it. So I sent her a document that helped her understand where it might be coming from. And then she, thank you, it helped me a lot. And is there some further, they gave her other furthers. Kruna Care, Rambaru Mataji, she's golden. And then the local devotee that is looking after her now, and she's not like, so it wasn't a basket case, but just she was hurt and didn't know how to deal with it. So it depends on the circumstance and the person, and it can be very severe, could be very severe, and then they need some trauma help. Depends. You get the last question. Oh, you get the second to the last question.
Guru Maharaj, since we talked about measurement, I wanted to ask a follow-up question on that. Can a change noticed in a person or